Hello and welcome to another tutorial using Flutter and GetX. Today I'm going to teach you how to do CRUD function in AWS Amplify using Flutter. So further ado, let's get started. As you can see, I have created a basic Flutter application. Next, we'll create a new app on AWS. For this, you'll be needing an AWS account. After you created the account, go to Amplify and create a new app. And given the app name, you can use anything here. I'm using GetX Amplify and make the project. Here we have to wait till the Amplify Studio configures and create the app. Amplify being configured, you'll be sent out to this screen where we can launch the studio. Then we can create our first data model, and inside this I'm going to create a basic to-do model with the name of to-dos, and we'll be having a basic ID, and here we'll be adding another field, actually two fields. One is task and the other one is a boolean value which is done, which indicates if the task is done or not to depict the checkbox. I'll be marking both of them as is required, and finally save and deploy. This will take a couple of minutes to deploy. To check out the status, you can click here and it'll show you the deployment status. The main advantage of using AWS Amplify is that we get the ability of using a local database that can be interacted when we don't have any connection to the internet. And when we get the connection back, the data is synced to the cloud. While we wait Amplify to be deployed, we'll go to pub.dev and get our packages. First, we'll be getting GetX, our state management package. Then we'll be getting our Amplify packages, which is Amplify Datastore, Amplify Flutter, and Amplify API. Now let's check out Amplify docs. In here, make sure it is selected Flutter and we'll go to Datastore. Inside the Datastore, we have to add this set of codes. So just copy it from void configuration. Copy it. Next, we'll head back to the project and implement GetX. To do that, we'll be removing all this boilerplate code, and then we'll be adding get material app and changing the home and removing all this. Next, we'll be adding the folder structure, which will be having two folders, controllers and screens. Inside the controller, we'll be having controller.dart. And inside that we'll be implementing class controller extends GetX controller. Inside this we'll be adding onInit, not onClose, and inside onInit we'll be pasting that configuration. By using this code, we can configure Amplify when the controller is initialized. Model provider and Amplify config will be downloaded to our project when we do an Amplify pull, which we'll be doing later on. Now let's head back to Amplify docs and add the API plugins so it'll be synced. We'll copy this code over here and paste it inside our project. and we have to import Amplify API. Let's head back to Amplify Studio to check the progress of the deployment. As you can see, it's still in progress, so let's head back to our code and do some changes. First, I'm going to create this home screen. Oops, I forgot to create the stateless widget. So let's create our stateless widget and import material.dart. And here we're gonna make a scaffold with a body of text and an app bar. Next, we'll create a floating action button to create a new to-do task. Now let's head back to main.dart and import that home screen. Amplify's deployment should be done by now, so let's head back to Amplify Studio. As you can see, it's completed. So we have to copy this and paste it on our terminal to implement the models. What this will do is, it'll create the models for all the tables in our data store and other necessary configurations. So you should love this and click on yes for the CLI, and let's head back to our terminal. And then we have to select Visual Code and Flutter and just press enter on here, and when this question asks, press yes. What this do is, it'll download all the configurations and necessary models and everything into our project. And when it's finished, you should do an Amplify pull again to get in all that models and update our project. It'll take a little bit of time, and when it's done, now we can import model provider and Amplify config. Okay, so this is a bug in VS Code. When this happens, we have to reload the window. Let's try to import it again. Now let's create our data read function. This function will be an async function and it will return a future of void. We'll be needing to make a list. So what we do is, when we read the data, we'll be getting that data into a list. Here we are using RX list, which is a reactive list from GetX, so that we can listen to changes from the UI. So let's write in our first data store query. We'll be needing a try-catch block, and inside the try-catch block, write to-do list equals amplify .datastore .query, and inside the brackets we call in our model type, which is to-do list .class type. This to-do is referring to our model which was pulled from Amplify. So this query returns us a list. Since our list is an RX list, we need to cast that. And we'll print our error just for the time being, but you can handle it in any way you want. Next, let's write our create new to-do task function. First, we'll be creating an object from to-dos model and adding our data there. Initially, when we are creating a new to-do task, isDone will always be false. Therefore, we can keep it hard-coded as false. Then we call in await amplify datastore save and adding the model object inside the parentheses. And we have to always put it inside a try catch block because if some error occurs, there should be a way to catch it. Next, we'll write our update function. We'll copy add function and paste it. Here we have to send the ID, task and isDone values. Later on, I will be changing this. It is similar to what we did in adding a new task, but here we have to check if the referred task is available in the DB. So to do that, I will create another to-dos object as all to-dos and querying it using await amplify datastore query with model to-dos and a where clause. Inside where clause, I'll be stating where to-do.id equals to the ID. You can get more information about these queries on their documentation. Like before, this will be returning a list of data and we'll be choosing the 0th index data. Next, let's create the delete function. Here we'll be only needing the ID. We'll be querying the data using the ID, and as I said before, the query always returns a list of data. Therefore, I'm using a for each and querying through each and every data and deleting them. And let's do some commenting. And then we have to call read data for each and every function, because that's how we populate the data. So we'll be calling read data here. So this is where the first time the code runs, and then when you add a post or delete or update, we need to update that list. So we'll be needing to call read data over there as well. Now let's run the application. While the app is launching, we'll do some changes to our code. First, we'll implement get into our code. So we call get material app. Okay, let's see. Our build got unsuccessful, so that's okay. Let's create our controller bindings and bind this controller. So class controller bindings extends bindings. And we have to implement that override. There's something wrong with the code. Let me check. Yeah, there's something wrong with the bindings. Yeah, there you go. Alright. So the dependencies, we have to initialize our controller. So we will type in get.put and the dependency name, which is controller, and that's it. Now we have to go back to main and call in our initialize bindings. So here we'll call controller bindings class and import it. Next, we'll head back to home page. I'm going to create a bottom sheet model for the admin to-dos. Before that, let's add get builder and connect our home to our controller. Now let's do a Flutter clean and Flutter run. Also, we need to change this minimum iOS in the pod file to 11 or higher. I'm gonna change it to 13. Meanwhile, it's being built. Let's create our body. Here I'll be having a Listview builder to show our to-dos. We'll be having a list style to show our to-dos, and we'll be taking size of the controller's to-do list. Now it's almost done. Let's head back to our controller to add our missing codes. After every create, update and a delete, read data method is called, so it will be updating the list. There's another change for our update function. As you can see, we have copied our create function but haven't changed the code for the update. So to update, you need to use all to do dot copy with function and send it in the parameters. Since we are already reading out the all to do's, we don't need to send task string using a parameter field. We can get that value via our all task. Now let's head back to our home screen and make the changes there. So let's wrap our list style with a dismissible. We need to send in a key. Here I'm gonna send in our to-do's ID as a string. Now let's add some logic. I'm going to be lazy and copy this and paste this over here and check if the list is empty or not. If it's empty, I will be showing a centered text saying no task, else I'll be showing each item in a list style. Next, we are going to work on the add task. Inside this column, I'm going to add a text field and an elevator button. I'm not going to do heavy styling, but wrap it up with a padding. Let's create an object from text editing controller as task controller. Before that, we need to convert our home screen to a stateless widget. This will help us to hold the state of our text editing controller. Inside our button on press, I'm going to call our add post function, which is inside our controller, and pass in our task controller value. Next, let's work on the data showing. So here for our list style, we will be passing our to-do list task wrapped with the text widget. As you can see, I've added some test values to be shown so we can see how it looks. Now let's work on our dismissible. We'll be calling our delete to do method on dismissed callback here. Then we'll add a background. I'll be adding a row widget. Inside the row widget, we'll be having delete icon in red. Finally, we'll be making main axis alignment to end to align the items in the row to the right side. Next, we wrap our list inside a card widget. Then we'll add our checkbox to our trailing and call in our update function. We'll be passing in ID and isDone boolean. Oh, I forgot to remove the task from the parameters. We'll do necessary changes now. We need to add initial value here. It should be a boolean. So we'll be passing isDone value in the to-do list. Now let's see if it works. Everything seems to be working fine. So let's head to our Amplify Studio to see if the data is being updated. We can see the data has been updated. So when the data store is updated, there will be a bit of a delay. I hope you got some knowledge on how to implement AWS Amplify and Datastore using Flutter and GetX. Please do not forget to like, subscribe and share. I'm looking forward to bringing you more content in the future. Till then, be safe, take care.